Uncle, please. Stop for a second. Something doesn't feel right. I can't take this pain anymore. In the heart of a quaint, sun-drenched town, a woman named Isabella found herself entangled in a web of desire and deceit. Her uncle, a man named Sebastian, had always been a mysterious and alluring figure in her life. Their relationship had taken a turn for the intimate, and now they found themselves in the throes of passion, their bodies intertwined in a dance as old as time. Isabella's breath hitched as Sebastian's hands roamed her body, his touch igniting a fire within her. His fingers traced the curve of her hips, his gaze never leaving hers. "Uncle, please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Stop for a second. Something doesn't feel right." The pain, a mix of guilt and pleasure, was becoming too much to bear. Sebastian paused, his eyes filled with concern. "Isabella, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice laced with worry. Isabella looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "I can't take this pain anymore, Uncle," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep betraying my husband." Sebastian sighed, pulling her into a tender embrace. "I understand, Isabella," he said, his voice soft. "But you must understand. This is not just about desire. This is about love." Isabella looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Love?" she echoed, her voice barely audible. Sebastian nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. "Yes, Isabella," he said, his voice steady. "I love you. I've always loved you." Isabella felt her heart skip a beat. She had always known about Sebastian's feelings, but hearing him say it out loud sent a shiver down her spine. Isabella looked at Sebastian, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she had a decision to make. She could either continue down this path of infidelity, or she could choose to honor her marriage vows. But as she looked into Sebastian's eyes, she knew what she had to do. She leaned in, her lips brushing against his. "I love you too, Uncle," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Sebastian's eyes widened in surprise, a smile spreading across his face. "Are you sure about this, Isabella?" he asked, his voice filled with hope. Isabella nodded, her gaze never leaving his. "I'm sure, Uncle," she said, her voice steady. "I want this. I want you." Sebastian's smile widened, his hands cupping her face. "Then let's not waste any more time," he said, his voice filled with desire. Sebastian's hands roamed her body, his touch setting her skin on fire. He traced the curve of her breasts, his fingers teasing her nipples. Isabella moaned, her body arching towards his. Sebastian's hands continued their descent, his fingers tracing the curve of her hips. Isabella's breath hitched as Sebastian's fingers found her wetness, his touch sending a jolt of pleasure through her. He teased her, his fingers dancing around her clit. Isabella moaned, her body begging for more. Sebastian obliged, his fingers finding her entrance. Isabella gasped as Sebastian's fingers plunged into her, her body arching towards his. He moved slowly, his fingers exploring her. Isabella moaned, her body trembling with pleasure. Sebastian's fingers moved faster, his touch sending waves of pleasure through her. Isabella's body trembled, her orgasm building. Sebastian's fingers moved faster, his touch pushing her closer to the edge. Isabella cried out, her orgasm crashing over her like a wave. She gasped, her body trembling in the aftermath of her orgasm. Sebastian smiled, his fingers still buried inside her. "I want you, Isabella," he said, his voice filled with desire. Isabella nodded, her gaze never leaving his. "I want you too, Uncle," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Sebastian's fingers slipped out of her, his hands cupping her face. He leaned in, his lips crashing against hers. Isabella moaned, her body arching towards his. Sebastian's hands roamed her body, his touch igniting a fire within her. Isabella gasped as Sebastian's cock found her entrance, his body pressing against hers. He moved slowly, his cock filling her. Isabella moaned, her body trembling with pleasure. Sebastian's movements became faster, his cock driving into her. Isabella's body trembled, her orgasm building. Sebastian's cock moved faster, his touch pushing her closer to the edge. Isabella cried out, her orgasm crashing over her like a wave. She gasped, her body trembling in the aftermath of her orgasm. Sebastian's body tensed, his orgasm building. Isabella's body trembled, her orgasm building. Sebastian cried out, his orgasm crashing over him like a wave. He gasped, his body trembling in the aftermath of his orgasm. The years had softened the edges of memory, but not erased them. Isabella often thought of that summer, of the choices she made and the love that burned too brightly to last. The pain that once felt unbearable had become a quiet ache, a scar she carried with both shame and understanding. After leaving the town, she rebuilt her life piece by piece. Therapy, solitude, and time became her quiet companions. She wrote letters she never sent, to her husband, to her uncle, and finally to herself. Each one carried a little more truth and a little less guilt. In forgiving herself, she began to understand the complexity of the heart, how easily love can blur into longing, and how redemption begins with honesty. One crisp autumn morning, Isabella returned to the mansion. The garden was overgrown, but the air was calm, the house no longer heavy with secrets. She walked through the halls, tracing her fingers along the familiar walls, feeling peace instead of regret. At the old piano, she placed a single white lily, her quiet apology, her final goodbye. As she turned to leave, sunlight broke through the clouds, filling the room with gold. Isabella smiled softly, knowing that the past would always be a part of her story, but it would no longer define her. For the first time in years, she felt free.